Islam and greetings. Princeanaelbey, Divine Prince and Supreme Grand Sheik of the Divine Theocracy of the Moorish Science Temple of America through Temple Alhambra. Don't forget, if you want a copy of the Greatest Crime Never Investigated, it is suitable for framing. The cost is $20, and it will be in the description box, the PayPal information. And I hope you all are doing well today. Class, I have some news for you. This news, it distressed me. It distressed me more than a little bit, because what I am looking at is exactly what I'm seeing. And I'm not particularly fond of what I am looking at. Let me share with you what I'm looking at. Now, I was covert operations in the Air Force. And when I take an oath, I keep my oath. My oath of secrecy, I will never violate. What I am looking at is almost a carbon copy of something that went on elsewhere in the world. I'm telling you again, you take a look at the Air Force Security Force now. What it is today, it was born in Vietnam. Started out as just simple combat cops, air-base defense, and doing what needed to be done to protect Air Force personnel and assets. And gather information and, check with our allies over there. And what the Air Force Security Forces are today, they were born in Vietnam. We were the school it came out of. And that's one of the things that distressed me so. Now, I have been hearing for years the changes that the United States military has made through the years, and since the years I wore the uniform. For instance, now somebody out there, if you were of one of those classes, please let me know, because I could not wrap my mind around the entire concept. And this is what I'm talking about. What I was hearing was young recruits, boot camp, basic training, etc. What I heard was they were issued time out cards. Time out cards? What the hell is a time out card? What I was told that a time out card was, the recruit would present that card when he felt that the drill instructor was speaking to him too harshly. That was the first thing I was ready to reject out of hand. Out of hand, I was ready to reject that. So someone who is ex-military or was in a class where that was actually done, because I talked to a former drill instructor when I was working on the ICC in Maryland, and he told me that it was true. I didn't even think I could stand anymore after hearing him confirm this. Because when I look back on my first night in basic training, what I know is it wasn't like that. Let me explain to you my very first night down in Happy Valley, which is what people affectionately call Lackland Air Force Base, where you take your basic Air Force military training. Bus pulls in around 2 o'clock, 2:30, or it might have been 1:30, 1 o'clock, 1:30. We sit in this great hall where they're doing something up there in the front. All you're doing, well, yeah, all you're doing is sitting there. And then you get these tags, and it's got your flight number, class number. And then this man who you don't know, he starts screaming at you, telling you to go stand and put your feet on their yellow footprints. So now, when I went in, a friend of mine who graduated Dunbar with me, he and I both went in at the exact same time. And we go through that, and then we get on some more buses. They rush you on there, and it was maddening. And the bus takes us to these, we didn't have the luxurious air-conditioned barracks that the new troops enjoy today. That ain't what we had. We had, our barracks were World War II barracks, and you had 4 fans in the window. If even on those 103-degree days down there when the blue flag went up. We get to our barracks. Now, me and my boy C, I'll use this. Well, his name was Clarence. Now, me and Clarence, we are the only Asiatics in a flight of 64 guys. When we offload the bus and get inside, this is when I do a head count. I count them and I count us. Now, mind you, not prejudiced or racist at this time. I'm a Chicago boy. I come off the streets of Chicago. I know Puerto Ricans. I know Mexicans. I know amalgamated Moors. Living in Chicago was an advantage at that time to me. This is a city that's got everybody in it. How can you be a stranger in this place? At any rate, it's 64, it's 62 of them, because we were 64-man flight. 62 of them and 2 of us. Well, I immediately had to square things away and get the order down. So I dropped my gear, I dropped my bags on the floor, and I turned around and I told them, I said, listen up, you MFers. I am Mr. Crowell, and this is Mr. Clarence. And as I look around, I see nothing but pale-skinned faces. I want you MFs to know right now, this is my house. Now, me and my boy, where we from? And people been asking us that all morning. We from Chicago. That's where we from. Anybody got an issue with that? Let's bring it forth now, squash it, so we can get on with this, because I'm graduating on time, and I don't want no shit out of nobody. Let's get it over with now. And so I'm standing there running my mouth like I actually run something. And everybody, they took their eyes off of me, and their eyes were around me. They were looking behind me. I turned around, and there was this little man in the most immaculate 1550 Air Force uniform I had ever seen in my life. And he was wearing a Smokey Bear hat. And he looked at me. And while he was looking at me, he was talking to the rest of the flight. And these were the words he spoke that morning. He said, I am Technical Sergeant Matthews. And regardless of what Mr. Crowell has just told you, this is my motherfucking house. And he said, Mr. Crowell, will you be the first volunteer to demonstrate to these men that this is my house? Well, quite naturally, I ain't volunteering for nothing. So he volunteered me. He took me by my shoulders. He stood me in front of him. And he leaned back, he put one of the shells in the cannon and he unloaded on me. He hit me in the chest so hard, I slid all the way down to the end of the bay. And so after he got my mind right, I did accomplish what I needed to accomplish. Everybody in the flight respected me, and clients, we respected everybody. We worked together as a unit. We got through everything together as a unit. As a unit. My point in all of that was these drill instructors who are being forced to soy down and to water down the training of military troops, you are beginning to set your troops up for failure. Putting women in combat, you're setting your military up for failure. Because it makes a hell of a commentary on a nation that does that when your nation is not under threat of attack or under siege. And for those of you who don't understand what I'm talking about the women of the Viet Cong and the women of the NVA. They were fighting to keep their home. And a lot of us understand that now. I mean, a lot of us wound up over there and we were under different delusions and illusions, and whatever we thought was the right reason to be in Vietnam in the first place. Those people only wanted to govern and guide their own national lives. That's the way I understand it. That's a God-given right. That's a God-given right. That's an inalienable right. Ho Chi Minh simply enforced the law. At any rate, now the U.S. military, there are young girls in the military who use the military as some kind of half-assed social welfare program. This is what I mean. They go into the military. Let's say a young girl, 19, 20 years old. She gets married. And this happens more times than you know. She gets married. She gets married to another soldier. All right. Check this out. She joined the National Guard. Now, he's active duty all day long. She's upset because her orders tell her she's on her way to Iraq. Now she wants to get out of the Army. She wants to get out of the Army because her husband is assigned in Germany, you see, and there's nobody to take care of the baby. Her grandparents can't look after the baby for an entire tour. The United States military is not a welfare program. And you know what the worst part of this is? The Army let her go. Didn't find her. The right thing to do would have been to make her pay back every penny of every check she ever got from the United States. Now that's fair. I am not a fan of the United States, but I am damn sure a fan of what's fair. This happens. You've got young girls using the United States military as a welfare program. It is not there to send you to school. It is not there to take care of your little bastard. And it certainly is not there to keep loving couples together. You are an asset. You are GI, baby. Government issue. That is what you are. And it ain't right, but you are to be used in whichever way and capacity the government sees fit to use you. That's right. Now, for you children who want to play soldier, ask some of those guys who used to work up that chow in Nam. You think that during a rocket attack, they're still in there stirring pots? They got that M16 and that 45. And they're out there with everybody else when those rockets come in. You're a soldier. Then your first job is to soldier. Your first job can't be your little bastard baby. No, see, you abandoned him when you signed on with Uncle Sam. The United States military is not a welfare program. Add to this, as I've been telling you, the United States of America Corporation is at war with natural America. Now, several years ago, I saw some things. It was writings. It was writing. And it outlined another phase of Colombia. It outlined another phase of Colombia. Well, yesterday evening, I heard, and saw President Donald Trump announce that particular phase. I'm going to get into it later, but right now, I need for you Asiatic Moors and you amalgamated Moors to begin dialoguing about a plan. Because I'm going to tell you what Colombia has planned for you. I'm going to tell you what Colombia has planned for you. You see, the hippies knew this in the 1960s. Nobody was listening to them. Nobody was listening to them. Some of us heard them. And we began paying attention. We began paying attention. I will get to that. There's a lot here. There's an awful lot here. And I do want you to understand all of it. Get as much as you can. And as you cogitate on it, you will begin to connect the dots. Because it will be plainly laid out for you. It will become as clear as crystal. Now, but before I get there, we finished speaking on the military. I have always thought it was the height of ignorance and arrogance on the part of the United States Military Corporation to take young boys, such as myself, put them in special programs and give them a particular skill set, and then turn them loose as civilians and just treat them like shit? Well, there are some boys who were taught a particular skill set. They're very good at what they do. Very, very good at what they do. Very good. And they're just out here. They're out of uniform. They're in uniform no more. They are no longer a sanctioned asset. But you see, for some reason, the United States Military Corporation, it seems to either neglect or completely omit the fact that everything that we were trained for is still up here. Everything we were trained for is still upstairs. The only term that I could find for this is the demoralization of the military. Demoralization of the military. I mean, you got timeout cards because a drill instructor yells at you. That's what DIs do. That's what all sergeants have the capacity to do. I had 3 stripes. I think I did a lot of yelling, but that's what sergeants do. Sergeants yell, and then you hand them a timeout card. A timeout card. So you in hand-to-hand combat with the enemy, and I don't know, he's choking you too hard. What are you gonna do? Give him a timeout card? What kind of soldier are you preparing, and for what kind of warfare? Now, as it is, we don't make a big deal out of it. But what we Vietnam era veterans know is this bullshit that's getting children killed now, it ain't warfare. This is video game warfare. This is video game warfare and town patrol. This is video game warfare. You know, it's not the same kind of warfare. We didn't have video games and send up drones. You know, the kind of drones we had, they were called ambush patrols. Those were the only drones in Vietnam. Ambush patrols, night ambush. Those were the drones. You actually got up close and personal and feel his and smell his stinky breath when you take his life. You don't sit in some damn tent in Baghdad somewhere and press a button. That ain't warfare. That's not warfare. Speaking of warfare in the military, you know, I'm going to give you some stats with this women in combat bullshit. Do you know only, 5 women, 5 sisters were killed during the Vietnam War? And as of last year, you know how many women were killed? What is it, 5,000, 500, 5,000? Something, you know, one of them ridiculous numbers. Why? Why? Women don't belong in combat. Why has the United States Military Corporation authorized, sanctioned, okays, and lowers standards? Why would a military lower standards for its combat troops? Did you know that they lowered the physical test, the PT test for women? See, the military is changing. And it is changing for what looks like the worst. Worst being setting up all of its troops for failure and loss. Look, a lot of my brothers in the fraternity, a lot of them still say today, if they'd have turned us loose, we'd have won Vietnam. If they hadn't tied our hands, we'd have won Vietnam. That's what a lot of my brothers still say today, because they're not really into the geopolitical aspect of that war. And we were just young guys who went for our own purposes. Me, I wanted to become a doctor. It's the only reason that I even put on the uniform. I wanted to become a doctor. And the Air Force helped me do that. And again, I take oaths very seriously. For instance, I would like for somebody to leave me a comment telling me the oath that new recruits take now at the AFES station. I'd like somebody to give me the new oath that they take. Because the oath that I took when I went in, these are the exact words. I promise to protect, to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution for the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Now, to me, from what I'm understanding the United States is doing, it's a foreign enemy because the district is a foreign place. It is a foreign jurisdiction, has absolutely nothing to do with America itself. America proper? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The United States only has jurisdiction in those original 13 colonies. Those states that comprise the United States. And that ain't America. That ain't America. America is without the United States, outside of the United States. And from what I see the United States doing and the direction that it is going in right now, as of today, this moment, the United States, it is an enemy of America. It's an enemy of America. It is a foreign enemy. And it sits almost on domestic soil. So it is both a foreign enemy and a domestic enemy. It is both. And this is why you're going to need your nieces and nephews. And when they try to teach you, get that nigga shit out of your mind, because what we're talking about is survival. And goddamn it, let's face one thing about your nephews. They are more serious about it than your ass is. They're more serious about survival than you are. So when they go to teach you, you fucking learn. You learn. Because you're going to learn something that Romeo on the block couldn't teach your ass. You're about to learn something. And you're going to learn it because you're going to need it. This is the plan. Now, in the 1960s, the hippie community, before it became a worldwide phenomenon, the hippie movement was all about freedom. You know, they were constitutional people at the base. It was about freedom. Freedom to do whatever you wanted to do. And that's what the Constitution for the United States, it guarantees people. It guarantees them that. All right, and then the hippies got into ecology. They started speaking ecologically. Well, there were those who viewed the hippies' concern for ecology. There were those who viewed that as a way to weaponize the word ecology and to steer not only America, but the entire world. Steer them toward a witch hunt. Steer them toward a witch hunt. And so, now the tenebrous ones, how do I broach this? There are those who want to end you, okay? There are those who just simply want to end you. This is how they're going to do it. Again, as I told you, last night I heard President Trump talk about signing this bill. This bill, it is being sold to you all as a bill for the expansion and the building of roads to the rural communities. Let me tell you what those roads are for, really. Those roads are going to bring those people who live in the rural areas into the cities. The cities are going to be concentrated places. They're more like concentrated camps. And for those of you who are not familiar with the old 80s movies starring Mr. Wesley Snipes and Mr. Sylvester Stallone is, my boy, Tom, oh, jeez, Kurt Russell. It's called Escape from New York. And that is essentially what Columbia has planned for you. That's another phase of Columbia. And so what they're going to sell you is there needs to be more roads. We noticed that there needs to be more work done on the infrastructure. You're going to hear three buzzwords. Infrastructure is going to be one. More roads is going to be another word. And rural. When you hear those three words, you now have the language. It's like you broke a secret radio code. Because when you hear those words, when you hear talk about climate change and environment, and soon after that, you're going to hear infrastructure. You're going to hear rural. And what they're going to do is they're going to build those roads so that they bring everybody who lives in the rural areas outside of the cities. You're going to be living in the cities. You're going to be living in the cities. That's where they're going. That is where Columbia is going to concentrate you, in the city. You see, now is the time, because you have no more time. You have run out of time. You have run out of time. Nephew, what you need to do is begin communicating with other factions and other militias. Is what you need to do right now. And give them this bit of information to look for and to listen for, because those are the code words. Just like attack the Moorish Empire and Imperial Morocco, the attack word was Columbia. The word they made up became this fictitious individual whose name just happened to be Columbus. Give me a break. Give me a break. Columbia is in full force and effect. Now, this is another phase. And I have told you all, you are at war. The United States has always been at war with America. And the United States is just as happy having these foolish Americans lump themselves in with staters, because they have lived their entire lives believing that the United States was America. And these foolish people are like lemmings, and they are running headlong towards that cliff. Now, I give you this because I love you all, and I want you all to have at least, at the very least, some kind of a chance. And to be forewarned is to be forearmed, and you are now armed. What will you do with the information? Will that information prompt you to write your legislator and demand that he unask the Constitution for the United States? Because once that document is produced, it will put an end to all of this. All of this. And like I said, I don't break my oaths. I took an oath on the Constitution for the United States. And I will preserve, protect, and defend that piece of paper. because the first 7 articles are the guarantees that my ancestors put in there for me and my posterity. And that is worth fighting for. And I have no problem doing that. And you see, United States, if I can spend my youth growing old 12,000 miles away from home for your bullshit, well, I can damn sure stand and die in the streets of my home for what's right. Oh, I can do that. I can do that. Because I fear nothing. I don't fear Rome. I fear nothing. What is there to fear? Truth needs no support. What is there to fear? Besides, it's all been done before. It's all been done before. It's all been done before. Yep. I've been denied by a brother before the Romans 3 times before the next morning. Been wrongly imprisoned while justifiable criminals were set free. It's all been done before. This is not new. And the only way that I'll be shut up is either through death or disappearance or something. But I am not going away. And I do want you all to be aware of what's coming, because this is what's coming. They have used environment as a weapon to further the Columbia agenda. They've used that as a weapon. And that is what gives them the wherewithal to bring up this bill, which is in furtherance of these efforts by the principle of Columbia. And so, when you start seeing roads being built in areas that you haven't seen roads before, understand why those roads are being built. And they are not being built for the benefit of Americans. Not at all. You need to understand you are under attack. Let me share this with you, because none of you ever knew. You all grew up under the mistaken impression, because that's all I can call it, because you all didn't know. You all grew up under the mistaken impression that the symbol for America is the eagle. It is not. The eagle is the symbol for Rome, you see. And there's an old Moorish saying which goes like this: no one listened when the Roman eagle screamed. No one listened when the Roman eagle screamed. And whenever Rome sets foot someplace, establishes an archbishop, the eagle has landed. The Roman eagle has landed. That bird ain't never been the symbol of America. The symbol of America is a bear. It's not an eagle. That's why on the back of that banknote, that's not an eagle either. That's a phoenix. What eagle do you know looks like that? The best piece of money to find an eagle was on the back of a quarter. That is what an eagle looks like. That's a real bird. Eagle's not a phoenix. But again, the United States is at war with you. And it began by harassing and meddling with your children. And then another phase was kicking you out of your home, making you homeless, making you have to struggle harder, giving you more problems. And then there was the phase of Colombia whereby those people you look to for protection are the very ones kicking in your doors at pre-dawn hours, murdering you. The policy enforcement participants. And they are doing that now because they've gotten orders. They've gotten policy. And it is okay now for the police to kick in your doors without a warrant, murder you, and then tell lies on television in order to further the Colombia agenda. But those roads are to bring the people who live in the rural areas and communities into the cities. The buses and the trucks will be able to get to the cities easier. That is where these roads are coming from, and that's why they're being built. And you will be sold the stories that it's to provide, for the infrastructure, because the infrastructure hasn't been attended to since the 1950s and blah, 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 blah. Tell you what, if you ever get your hands on it, this may help you tremendously. Tremendously. See if you can get your hands on a copy of the United Nations 2030 Agenda. There you go. There you go. See if you can get your hands on a copy of the United Nations 2030 Agenda. And what it is essentially is the plans for the United Nations for the next 10 years, where this land is concerned. And so that scenario that I set up for those bullies with badges, when they round all the people up and put them on trains, when the train comes back, it's coming back for them. When I remember telling them there'll be foreign troops just walking up to you, taking your guns out your holsters, because there'll be no more use for you. And I am not some major prognosticator, nor do I profess to be a prophet. However, I know what I'm looking at when I see what I see. And the UN is going to invade America. The UN is going to invade America. And if you're sitting there thinking, well, the UN is part of the United States. No, it ain't. The UN belongs to the Rockefellers. The building sits on Rockefeller land. Building was built by Rockefeller money. No, do not delude yourself any longer. I am here to tell you the truth. I know you've been lied to. I pray only that you take some of these words and you do the research yourself. I will point you in the direction where you can find these things and you can learn for self so you can know thyself. This is not for me. It's for you and me and all of us and everybody who comes behind us. And you all had damn well better start taking this seriously. Because your little lives, you get up, you go to work, you bring your ass home, you eat, you fucking sleep. You think that's life, huh? Really? What I want you to do at some point during the day, just turn off the TV, radio, what have you. Just sit back and close your eyes. And just envision in your head 12 cats in tactical gear from the CPD. They kick in your doors. You just got time to jump up before they tell you to stay still before they do something bad to you. And then, without another word, you are handcuffed. And you are taken out of your domicile. And you are put in a truck where when the doors open, you see, 12 other truly surprised people with the same looks on their faces you have on yours. I want you to think about how you would feel on that day, because that day is coming, and it is more of a reality than you care to know. Take a look around. Take a look around you. There is 360 degrees to view. There are 360 degrees to everything. You see? And though no one is interested in learning this ancient religion called Moorish science, since nobody is interested in learning it, well, that is the shame of it all. However, for those of you who become students, without this key, the student shall forever knock in vain at the doors of the temple. Those are the words of a sage. 1,000 years ago, he said that. 1,000 years ago, he said that. And those words still remain as the truth. I want you all to understand how serious this is. You Asiatics, I am fully aware that you all do not take anything seriously. I got that. And it is because of this that at this time, you're going to need not only the help and the assistance, but you're going to need guidance from your nephews. Because where you're about to enter, they know more about this than you do. And you listen. Fuck all that smart-ass nigga shit, bullshit that you like to bring everywhere you go. Your ass depends on this. And everybody you pretend to care about. Yeah, for the first time in your miserable, rotten-ass nigga life, other people are depending on you. And your ass have got to come through. Told you too much was riding on this. Too much is riding on this. You need to find some of your amalgamated Moorish nephews and connect with them if you can. Because what I know is ain't nobody watching these videos, unless you're a fraternity brother, ain't nobody but nobody is prepared for what's coming. You're not prepared, Asiatics. You are not prepared. Here is when you will now need your nephews. They are proficient in here. This they are adept in. You're going to need their guidance and their direction if you're going to survive this at all. Because what you are seeing now and what's being played out to you is this continual wedge of divisiveness between black and white. And when you stop playing that black card bullshit, stop playing that card. Stop being it. Stop being it. Life will be different for you. When you come to your nephews like men with a purpose, he will begin to take you seriously. You don't take each other seriously, and that's a problem for you. Because now, not only are you going to need that man next to you, you're going to need that man that you have been trained to hate all your goddamn life. Yeah. You are now under combat conditions where The only ones who are going to make sense to you are those wearing your uniform. Because you need each other now. Oh, you need each other now. You better start organizing. You got 10 years. Because I've been building roads. Been building roads for a while. And 10 years is about the length of time that it takes to get nearly 300, 400, 500 projects started, financed, and finished. You can do that in building roads. You got 10 years. You got 10 years. Nephews, Asiatic Moors, you had both best unfuck yourselves most rickety, because everybody's depending on this one. You've got information that you shouldn't have. You've got it. Now what are you going to do with it? You know that the road that they're building and all of the hype and the chatter that you're going to hear about infrastructure, roads, and connecting the rural areas, all of those are code words for Colombia's continued assault on America. That flag does not fly the way it does for no reason. It is telling you what is happening. And when the flag flies east and west, it is saying, we are at war with you. And that banner has always flown that way. The flag of Morocco was taken and hidden during the Wilson administration, but it was located and it was given back to us. This is worth fighting for, because I told you, without it, you're going to disappear. You're going to disappear. And now you're going to need to get with your nephews and your nieces. You're going to have to be, you know what? You're going to have to become another Vietnam. You're going to have to become another Vietnam. You're going to have to work together, different factions, if you want to keep America, because the United States is coming for it. It has had you for hundreds of years. It has indoctrinated you well, to the point that there are those among you who believe that everything that the United States does is for the good of America. You all have got to wake up out of that sleep. It has always been at war with you. There is nothing about the United States that has ever led you to believe that it was on your side in any way, shape, form, or fashion. If anything, the United States has shown you how much contempt it has for you by bringing admiralty courts into America. And that signaled nothing to you? The United States is not your friend. It is not your ally. It is your conqueror. And it is about to put the stopper in the bottle. Islam, my mission is to help you and provide you with information that it is known you do not have. And as I do this, it is expected, not by me, of course, because I don't expect nothing out of you except for you to be you. It's not expected, not by me, it's not, but it is expected that you all can do the one thing that will ensure the survival of a real nation of Americans who ain't about to give this up to nobody. And if you're going to do it as a group, then you have got to stop taking each other out as individuals, because now you are diminishing your own strength. You are diminishing your own strength. So you bullies with badges, you better stop. because you're going to need those people. And I've warned you before. It's a good time now to change your evil ways, because the militias are not yet formed, especially as one militia of America. So if you're one of them fucked up bullies with a badge, you like fucking over people just because you can, because you think you got some kind of authority, I'm going to warn you again. Don't let the militia learn your name. You're willing to shoot unarmed Americans because you wear a goddamn gun and a badge. Don't let the militia ever get your name on their list, because those are Americans that you are murdering for a goddamn paycheck and some sense of fucking superiority. What an asshole you are. What an asshole you are. Well, I'm telling you now, don't be one of those that the militia puts on its list, because something tells me that those boys will assign some guys who do nothing but look for motherfuckers like you. I think they have the capacity for it. I really do. My nephews are kind of sharp that way. You see, they think. And just because you look like them, they'll be able to tell the difference between you and them, just like a Moor can tell the difference between another Moor and Negroes and black people. Oh yeah, they'll be able to tell you. This place, if it is not stopped, this place is going to turn into something else. It got my attention. Therefore, I had to bring it to yours. The things that you think are important today, I have just told you what is definitely going to happen in your future. Now is the time to come together to plan and strategize as a unit. Because those who are working Columbia's plans, they have never stopped. They began in 1492, and they have not stopped. Please stop thinking that America is the United States, because it is not. It just is not. And know that the United States is at war with America. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and please share. If you know any amalgamated Moors who know militiamen, and make sure they get this. Make sure they get this, because they are coming after their guns as well. And I am not going to just sit by and do that. I am an active participant in the NRA. I believe in the gun. Not because I'm a gun nut, but because it's my right if I choose to own one. In the meantime, you be good to each other, you take care of each other, and you protect each other. I bid you peace.